Hello everyone, welcome to Accounting Theory 12. In this video, I will talk about chapter 14, the problem. I use the problem on our handout packet, page 16, 14-27 and 28 as an example, and then I also will review the textbook and give you some idea about what you should expect in the exam, the problem part. I will post my notes and then post the specific questions in the Blackboard. So make sure you check the email, check the Blackboard. Okay, so before we talk about this question, I want to review the chapter 14. I know we have been reviewing the sales variance one more time. So we talk about this problem in class. I'm not really going to do too much, but I want to add something that are based from your quiz, from your feedback, and then from some multiple choice. So I want to add some notes here and share my feeling with you. So what you should know is based on our, I would say, formula or whatever. We talk about that is AAA, ABA, ABB, and BBB. So what's this basically about is I separate the total number to three parts. Always use your total unit sold as the first letter, and then your mix as the middle, and then the contribution margin for the third factor. The reason is the logic. Okay, the logic here is we want to get the company's contribution margin. We compare the actual contribution margin with the budgeted contribution margin. But we have more than one product, right? We have two products, we have three products. So we want to get the total contribution margin. That's the reason we have a contribution margin factor here. How do you get the company's total contribution margin? It's basically your first department or first product total contribution margin plus your second product total contribution margin. So how do we get the first product total contribution margin? Is the first product unit sold time that product contribution margin plus your second total unit product sold time your second product contribution margin, right? And then we have budget. How do we get the total units of your first product? Is your total units time your first product mix, right? Your total sold 100 units, the first product is 40%, then your first product is 40 units. Each one is $3, let's say contribution margin. So your first product is $120 contribution margin. So that is our total units of the two products, three products added together, time your first one's mix, time your first one's percentage, and then time your first one's contribution margin gives your first one total contribution margin. We add our second one, we add our third one, we add our fourth one to get our companies. And then we said, oh, we have the actual, we have the budget. But since we decompose it to three parts, we cannot really say the detail if we only know the actual, if we only know the budget. We said because all three factors, they change, right? This is all actual, all actual, actual. This is all budget, all budget, but all budget. So it's not possible we know, oh, from 1485,000 to 1434,000. So what caused the change? So the logic is, so we want to move from order with AAA to order with BBB, but we want to keep two factors the same, and then we just move one factor. So every time we just change one factor. Therefore, if there is any change, it's only from that factor. So we move, how do we move AAA all the way? We move it to AAB first. And then from AAB, we move to ABB, and then from ABB, we move to BBB. So every time if you have this change, then it's all because of the third factor. If it's from AAB to ABB, then it's all because of the second factor. From AAA to BBB, it's because of the first factor. That's the logic. That's the logic. So as I said, you have to know all the calculation. You know the relationship static. This is, we call it, this is your actual results. This is your static results. This is your flexible budget results. And then the difference of your actual and static called static budget variance. Actual and flexible called flexible budget variance. flexible and static called sales volume variance. And then that's what you have learned in chapter 7. But now we have more than one product, we have 2 and 3. So we have this sales mix variance, and then we have sales quantity variance. And then we break sales quantity to market share and market size, which we will be talking about later. So that's the whole thing. That's the main logic. So what I'm trying to do one more time with you is go through the textbook and then tell you which part you should know to really understand the meaning of the numbers. As I say, I really want you to understand the meaning of the numbers. I know you are good at getting the numbers, but how to know what's the meaning of these numbers and how to we use the numbers to help us to make decisions. Right? Don't forget, you are managers, you will be millionaires soon. So the static budget variance, basically it tells you the difference between the actual and then the static budget. Is really, we cannot really know much. As I said, I will put notes, but basically static budget variance just tells us on average or overall our actual performance is better or worse than our budget. That's all. And then we said a flexible budget variance and then sales volume variance. That will be easier if we were in chapter 7 and then if there was only one product. But we have 2 products, so kind of a little hard to interpret. So I'm not really requiring to do this in the exam, but I want to do this with you. Want to read this textbook with you. So remember, we have 2 products, right? We have 2 channels. We have 2 departments. And then we said the first one, I'm looking at the textbook, right? So the first one called the wholesale channel, the second one called the business sale channel. In the textbook, in our class, I just did all the numbers. I didn't really explain too much. I said, oh, you use the total time your first one percentage time your first one, the contribution margin. You add the second one, you still use the total time your second one percentage. That gives you second one total units time your second one contribution margin. You add those 2, you get your total of these 2 departments, right? So I said you do AAA plus your AAA, you do AAB plus your AAB, you do BBB plus your BBB. So why we do that? Because this one gives your first department, this one gives your second department, and then that one gives you a total. Does this make sense? I hope this makes sense, right? And then your textbook good is separated these 2 departments, so we can get a better idea to find out that, hey, like flexible budget variance. So we just look at this number and then we find out we have the unfavorable flexible budget variance, 400,000 unfavorable. So why we have unfavorable sales flexible budget variance? So we look at the first one, right? We found out, hey, the first department actually has a favorable, but the second one is so unfavorable, right? So overall it's unfavorable. So why the first one is favorable and second one is unfavorable? In chapter 7, you have learned that flexible budget variance actually is basically you use the same output level, but you time different of your budget and then your actual selling price or the cost or contribution margin. So you look at this number. I just show you using our textbook. I think it's necessary to understand the detail. So our first department, your actual units sold, the first department, I'm not talking about total, the first department sold 100,000, right? So, and then your flexible budget, we use the actual output unit level, 100,000. The only difference is about our contribution margin, right? So you can also say this is the difference of AAA and AAB. The only difference is our contribution margin, So you found out that, hey, your first department actual is 226.275, budget is 225. So the contribution margin actual is higher than the budget. Therefore, we should expect to see favorable flexible budget variance. So that's the reason you have a favorable flexible budget variance. But it's not that much, right? It's only 226 versus 225. So for your second product, for your second department, our actual output is 50,000, so that's the same. The only difference is our contribution margin. Our actual is 264 our budget is 275. So you can say it's a big unfavorable, right? It's a big unfavorable because we only look at the contribution margin. It's more than $10 unfavorable for each one. So you should expect a big unfavorable for your second department, for your second channel. Your first channel is a little bit favorable. Your second channel is a big unfavorable. Therefore, your total will be unfavorable. Okay, so that is why you have a total unfavorable, because the first is a little bit favorable, but it's offset by the big unfavorable second department. Overall is unfavorable. So what I want you to read is this textbook, this sentence. I'm not going to really read for you, but I want you to read this. You know, as I said, for our this semester, I'm not really asking you to put this in the exam, but I want you to understand. I want you to understand, okay? So then they said, hey, so why your second department contribution margin is more than $10 lower than the actual? So it already told you, we talk about that. It's not because of the selling price, but it's because you didn't control your variable cost, right? Because you didn't control your variable cost. So next year, you should start controlling for your variable cost. That is why your second department, you thought should be 275, but it's only 264, because your variable cost you thought should be 775, but it became 785 almost. Okay, so that's the first thing, flexible budget variance. And then we said the second one, we call it the sales volume variance. That's also what you have learned in your cost accounting. So sales volume variance basically is from your different sales volume, right? Some students say, hey, what's the difference sales volume and sales quantity? I'm telling you now. So you can find out, this is sales volume variance. So basically, you compare these two numbers, you found out that they use the same contribution margin, 225. The only difference is under flexible budget, you use the actual output is 100,000, but the static budget, you use the static budget is 93,000. So sales volume variance is for each product, for each department. Okay, so for each department, for the first department is 100,000 versus 93,000. It's 100,000 versus 93,000. So you can find out, hey, flexible is a little bit higher, like 7,000 higher. So you should expect a favorable for your first department as sales volume variance. For the second department, we also compare, hey, we said, hey, contribution margin 275 is the same. So we compare the second product, second department, sales units. Your flexible budget is 50,000, but static is 62,000. So we call it the left side is much, much lower than the right side is more than 10,000 units lower. So your second department is a big unfavorable. So your first one is favorable. Your second one is a big unfavorable. So your overall should be unfavorable. Your overall is unfavorable. So we found out the bad guy is the first one actually is a good guy, right? So we want to promote the manager. We want to give the salesperson, more bonus. The second department is a bad one. You want to really watch this department. Sales volume variance is for that product. We compare that product outcome. We compare the first department, we compare the first channel's units. It's 100,000 versus 93,000. It's 50,000 versus 62,000. That's sales volume variance. Sales quantity variance is we compare the total. It's 150,000 or 155,000. We do not care it's from the first department or second department, first product. We compare the total of that company. So if your total company, after adding all the products of all the departments, if the actual is higher than the budget, then you will have a favorable sales quantity. But for sales volume, you have to compare each department or each product separately. The first department, favorable; second department, unfavorable, because first department is 100,000 versus 93,000 favorable. Second department is 50,000 versus 62,000, so it's unfavorable. Therefore, your total is unfavorable. But you kind of have to do the department level analysis. You cannot just get a number. Sales quantity on the other side, you just need to look at the total quantity. You will get a results. Okay, I hope you feel better about sales volume and sales quantity. And then what I want you to do also is read the textbook. And then they said it also tells you something, right? It said sales volume variance is unfavorable because the first one is better, but the second one is really bad, right? It's really bad. And then we said, oh, so we want to separate it to sales mix and then sales quantity variance. So sales mix variance, this is definitely the main one. You have to know how do you calculate and you have to know how do you interpret it. So this is the part I highlighted it. I want you to interpret it. So for our textbook example, it said, hey, we said you want to focus on the second department, right? Because the second one gives you higher contribution margin. So your budget is you sell 40%, but you only sold 33%. So you switched your focus to the one with a lower contribution margin. You lost the kind of the units with a higher contribution margin. Remember, we said if you notice that, then you should expect the unfavorable sales mix variance. So for sales mix variance, if it's a multiple choice, you don't really need to do the calculation. You just need to find out that, hey, you switched your focus to the one with higher or lower contribution margin. If with higher contribution margin, you will see favorable sales mix variance. If you focused on the one with a lower contribution margin, you should expect to see unfavorable sales mix variance. We said the other way to double check is that you get a composite unit and then compare. So if based on the budget sales mix is 245, based on the actual sales mix is 241.667. So your composite unit using budget mix is higher than using actual mix. That gives you the feeling that your sales mix variance will be unfavorable. And we can also get a number, right? 500,000 unfavorable. I want you to also read this paragraph also. So these are the why you will have this unfavorable sales mix variance, because we said we kind of didn't focus on the one with higher contribution margin. Why? They said maybe because the customers are harder to find, or because the competitors, they do better than us. So we lost that business customer because they switched to our competitors, right? Or because our budget is not reasonable. So those are some reasons. And then we said, as the manager, we should try to focus on the one with a higher contribution margin next year. So overall, you can give some detailed explanation like, hey, we should try to cater, please, the customers with a higher contribution margin product. We should, remember our customer level profitability. Maybe we should visit them more, give them more greeting card, kind of, or learn from competitors, for this product, for this channel, for the business level, for the business sales channel. So that gives you the sales mix variance. And then for the sales quantity, I said very clearly. So we said you need to know how do you do the calculation. And then we said sales quantity is basically you compare the total quantity. That's all. You don't really need to, like if it's multiple choice, said, hey, you will expect favorable, unfavorable. Don't need to really do this calculation. You just say, hey, 150,000 is lower than 155,000. You should choose the answer said, hey, sales quantity will be unfavorable. That's it. Okay, Then it also tells you why you have unfavorable sales quantity. Managers, they want to know the reasons because of the competitor marketing, or because because where? Because the market is bad, right? Because the market is bad or declining in the overall demand, right? Because your competitor is doing better in the market, or because the market overall is shrinking. So that's why it goes to the market variance, and then goes to market variance, including market share and the market size. So it's you can get more insights by doing that, by separate. And some students, they told me, he said, Professor, I have a hard time with the market variance. I said, I understand that one because, so for the market share and the market size, how do you understand is that, remember when we do our company level, we have this AAA, BB, or whatever. So the first number is your company's total units sold. And then the second one is that product percentage, right? And then that one is that product contribution margin. So now we look at the market. If we think about, hey, market overall, what the variance will be. So from the market, I said the market share is kind of similar with the sales mix. Market size is kind of similar with the sales quantity. Because now we look at the market perspective. We said, what is the market total units, right? So the first letter will become, what's the market total units? And then instead of saying that first product percentage, we look at the market. So your company will kind of be the first department, right? Your competitor, let's say Walmart is the second department, Target is the third department. So you have three departments, the first one is yours. So what is your percentage? What is your market share? And then what is your company's contribution margin? We said we have to use a kind of composite unit because that's our company's weighted average contribution margin. And that's why you get this composite unit, right? Because you have two products, they have a different contribution margin. So if I say, hey, what's your company's contribution margin? You kind of have to weighted average these two products. So that will be your company's contribution margin. So we use the total market size times your market share times your market contribution margin, and then we get our market share variance. We get our market size variance. So we use the total market size times your company market share times your company the contribution margin. As the textbook or the 14-28 tells you, most likely they will say, hey, tell you the market size is this much, and then maybe your percentage is this. Hold this, sorry, I used the question to do the calculation, sorry about that. Okay, so that is how you get the switch from the company level to the market level. When you have the market level, basically you just take your company as one department. So you do your market share, then it's basically the difference of AAB and ABB, right? So the market total units, your actual market share, and then difference of your actual market share and your budgeted market share. So that gives you market share variance. And the actual market size and the budgeted market size, the difference gives you market size variance. So we said market share is unfavorable, right? So we said, hey, because your company dropped the percentage, you thought it would be 20%, but you only reached the 18.75%. And then market size, we said the market actually expanded, so you have the favorable market size variance. What I want you to read is also this paragraph, right? They said, hey, why you have the unfavorable market share? Because competitors, they are better, you know, because the competitor, they cut the price or something. So market size is more related with your competitor, right? It's more related with the competitor. You lost the share because your competitor took your share. And then we said the market size basically is depending on the economy. If the economy is good, the market size will expand. So if the market size is favorable, then you cannot blame the market, because actually the economy was better, right? You have an unfavorable market share, so that is your fault. You cannot blame the market. Okay, so I kind of like highlighted the main thing in the textbook. I hope, especially we said, I want you to know how did we get the flexible budget variance. We said it's because of the two departments. Your first one can be favorable, your second one is unfavorable. So overall it's unfavorable. Kind of read this paragraph, and then I said sales volume is similar, and then sales mix, definitely you have to know the explanation, and then gives you some idea here. And then sales quantity also, you have to know the meaning because your total units is lower. And then they also said why. Two reasons, maybe because you lost your market share or because the market actually shrunk. Then you did additional analysis, you found, hey, market share is unfavorable, so that's kind of you lost your market share. Maybe your competitors, they are more aggressive, they have a better service, they have a lower price or whatever, they took your market share, and they found out that hey, market size is favorable. So you cannot blame the market. It's not the market fault, it's your fault. You didn't do your part, right? You didn't do your part. So that's basically your textbook. So what I'm trying to do now is I talk about our question a little bit. I'll post my solution in the Blackboard. So I'm not going to talk about the firm level. I think you all know the firm level. The only thing I want to say is always, we said, no matter what you do, is always you kind of use the total units times the percentage, right? I said you either use your total one time your percentage, or you just say, hey, this is actually 132,000. Either you use 240,000 times 55% times your contribution margin, or it's the same as 132,000 times your contribution margin. So either one is right, but never ever do 55% again. This will be wrong. This will be wrong. So even I ask you the first department or the second department, even I ask you each department, you still have to use the total units, right? So if I just ask you the first department, I'm trying to get the textbook. I try to show you. So if I just ask you, hey, what's your wholesale or what's your first department? It's a favorable, but you still use your total units times the percentage times the contribution margin. You just don't need to add the second one. So if I said, hey, what's your first product? You use your total times your first one contribution margin, and then you subtract the flexible, you get this favorable. So you just use 100,000 times contribution margin. Never ever use 100,000 times your percentage one more time. Okay, so if I said, hey, what's your first channel? It's 127.5 thousand favorable. I said, what's your second level? It's 527.5 thousand unfavorable. I said, what's the company level? You add those two, 400,000 unfavorable. Okay, so first department, second department, total department, total company. Okay, so that's the main thing here I just want to point out. And then the second part is doing the composite unit. I said that no matter what you do, you always use your budgeted contribution margin. You just use a different percentage, either use budget percentage or actual percentage. But you always use your budgeted contribution margin. You always use your budgeted contribution margin. Therefore, we keep the contribution margin the same. We only change the percentage. So the difference will be driven by the percentage. Okay, what I really want to do here is to talk about the market share and market size. So you found out that your total actual you sold is 240,000 for two products, and the budget is 250,000, right? That's your company. And the question said your market share, you thought will be 20%. This is your budget, right? And then you also have the size. You thought will be 125 million, but it changed to 1.5. So this is your budgeted. This is your actual. Okay, so how do we convert? How do we link everything here? Is that your company? So you have the data of your company actual and budget, right? And then you have the market actual and budget. Okay, so your actual is 240,000. The market total is 1.5 million. So what is your actual market share? What is your actual market share? Your actual market share is 16%, right? So that is how you link your company with the market. Your company is from your company data. Your company actual divided by the market actual gives you your actual percentage, gives you your actual market share. Your budget is 250,000. Budgeted market size is 1.25. That gives you 20%, which is your budgeted market percentage. Okay. So in the question, I may tell you, hey, your actual is 20%. I don't tell you the market size. I said, actual, you sell the 240,000, and that is 20% of the market share. So what is market size? Hey, you said, I don't know. So I said, hey, I saw the 240,000. I don't know what is the market, but I know my 240,000 is that's my actual, sorry. My actual is 16%, right? So I know that is 16% of the actual market share. My actual divided by the market actual gives me 16% of my actual market share. So then my market will be 1.5 million, right? Will be 1.5 million. So that will give you this actual market size. So what I'm trying to tell you is, you know your company data. If I give you market share, you should be able to get market size. If I give you market size, you should be able to get market share. And then we set up everything. So, and then we said it's A, B, A, B, B, and then B, 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 right? So this is the market share. This is the market size. So we use the actual market size is 1.5 million times your actual market share is 16%. We time your budgeted contribution margin using budgeted percentage composite unit gives you 5.736. You get the number, and then so you minus your actual 1.5 million. So time your budgeted percentage, 20%, right? Time your 5.736. So the difference of these two is your market share market share variance. And then we get our budgeted 1.25 million times budgeted 20% times 5.736. The difference of these two will give you the market size variance. So you can even look at the number. You find out that, hey, your actual is 16%, budgeted is 20%, so that will definitely be unfavorable. Your actual is 1.5, budgeted is 1.25. That's definitely favorable market size variance. Okay, so I think I didn't really talk too much about the specific, the detailed calculation. I know you know that. I pointed out something, especially I said, if you want to use the formula, always use the total units. And then when you do the calculation of a composite unit, always use your budgeted contribution margin. And then especially for the market variance, kind of we did this together. So I will kind of make a file hopefully, and then list what questions you should expect, and I will put my solution there. So check your email, check the Blackboard. Let me know if you still have any question with chapter 14. I will post more material for you to study. Thank you.